Welcome tonight. I'm happy everybody was able to join us for our roundtable webinar discussion. The focus of the webinar tonight is for everybody to be able to connect with current students, alumni, and our KU faculty to better understand their KU experience in our programs that are offered. So we're going to go through some quick introductions. After we go through introductions, we will open the floor for an open discussion. At that time, our attendees will be able to unmute and then ask questions that you might have regarding programs or the online experience. And then to continue to build your guys' network after the event, we will share LinkedIn profiles of whoever shared them with us. So we'll be sending that out after the event. And then just some quick housekeeping I want to go through via Zoom is that those who are logged in as attendees now, I am going to switch you over to a panelist. Once I switch you over to a panelist, you will see a pop-up screen that's going to say rejoin the webinar as a panelist. In doing this, your video is going to be turned on. However, if you want your video turned off, you will have access to do that, and then you will have access to unmute if and when you have any questions that you're wanting to ask. So I am going to go ahead and switch those who are in attendee mode to panelist. So you should be seeing a pop-up screen soon. Go ahead and accept and move over to a panelist when you see that. All right. Looks like everyone has been moved over. It's like just Laura we're waiting for. If you see the pop-up screen, go ahead and move over. If you don't, let me know. There we go. Okay, perfect. So we should all be over on the panelist side now. Like I said, if you want to keep your video off, definitely do so. If you want to keep it on, do that as well. So let's get started. Okay, there we go. So as we get settled in, we're going to go through some introductions. Like I said, after the introductions, we'll open up the floor to ask any questions that are on top of mind for you. And then we'll just have a good roundtable discussion. So this is me. I'm Cassie Barrera. I work as an admissions advisor on behalf of the University of Kansas for the online graduate programs. So I cover our ALPS programs, our CNI programs, as well as our SPED programs. These other advisors here you might have been in contact with. This is Sam in the middle, and then this is Susan. So we are all admissions advisors for the programs. All right, next we have some great KU faculty joining us tonight. First, we have Lana. If you want to go ahead and give just a little introduction on yourself, that'd be great.
Great. Hi, everyone. I teach in the curriculum and teaching department, specifically with the TESOL program, the Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages, and I also work a lot on the capstone course for that program.
Thank you. And then next we'll have Stephen.
Good evening. I'm Steve White. I'm chair of the Department of Curriculum and Teaching. My area is really in elementary education, but at graduate level, I teach multiple classes, mostly in curriculum, general curriculum and instruction.
Thanks, Steve. And then Jennifer.
Hello and good evening as well. I'm Jennifer Besselo, new faculty member at KU. I teach and help coordinate the programs in the Masters of Educational Leadership program. So excited to be here and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. And then next we have Melanie.
Hi, I'm Melanie Schramm. I recently completed my curriculum and instruction program for specialist back in August. So I'm a very new alumni.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, you guys, tonight. So now we've done our introductions. Like I mentioned, it's really going to be an open forum for you guys really to ask any specific questions that you have regarding the programs, the experience as an online student. At this time, you guys are more than welcome to unmute. If you want to ask a question, you can also use the chat feature at the bottom of the Zoom. There's a chat feature. It will go to everyone. You can put your questions in there. And we can just get started with whoever might have anything to ask. And then if not, I have some pre-planned questions that we have here. So let's see. So a big one that I get often with the programs being online is kind of just what are interactions with your professors and students and classmates with, given that it's, you know, an online program, and anyone can take this that can speak to, you know, what those interactions are like, being kind of on both ends of it.
I can share I've taught for the program, the Master's Ed Leadership program for the last 5 years. And so it all depends on the setup of the online courses themselves. But for the most part, you can count on discussion forums where you can interact with each other. There's sometimes projects where you can work in groups. And so what that looks like could be a face-to-face format, as well as just the online, like a shared Google Doc with a project. The classes in the Ed Leadership program are largely asynchronous. So there's not necessarily that time commitment that can be a little tough, you know, depending on people's schedules, especially if you are already in a teaching situation. But I will say that there's also opportunities for virtual engagement with the instructors. So some instructors will have optional office hours or an optional Zoom conference so that you can get some face-to-face time as well. But largely there's several forums within the classes for different interaction engagement. There's even a Go React teaching tool where you can record yourself and be able to interact with each other's peers as videos that are posted. So again, probably depends on the class, but lots of different opportunities.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Does anybody else have anything to add to that?
Just coming from a student perspective, there were plenty of opportunities to interact with the professors, as well as, like Jennifer said, about doing the different projects with one another. There was a project that I had early on in my program, and we were communicating back and forth through Google Documents and Google Chat. And one of the other students that I was working with, we even went as far as to make a phone call and FaceTime as we completed a project together. And you know, we put ourselves out there to take advantage of the projects that we were getting involved with. So we, you know, went above to reach out and do that. But there were a lot of the I lost the word, I'm sorry, discussion. There were a lot of the discussions back and forth, and it was really interesting to see perspectives from, there was one teacher in my program who was teaching in China. And so he was in a totally different time zone. And so to gain his perspective and work with him through many classes, and there were students that, you know, I had in almost every single class, and there were other students who I only had in one class, but it was really nice to interact with everyone and see the different perspectives. So.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, to bounce off of that, something else too that I get a lot of times with prospective students is, what is it like balancing working full-time and being enrolled in an online program? Like, how is that kind of balance like, and having a personal life?
I know I always write my to-do list for the day. And so I would, you know, take, okay, today's my day that I'm going to spend an hour or two on a project. And then tomorrow I'll spend another hour or two. And so I really chunked everything out. For me, that's how things worked. And I did find myself taking a lot of time at work. Like when I was teaching, I would read all my books and articles during my lunch break. And that was fine. I definitely spent time that like I have now that I'm complete where I, go and enjoy my lunch, but it was definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, no, I feel like everybody kind of has a different balance of how they do it. So it's always encouraging to hear how everybody else, but I think to-do list is definitely great. I spoke with one previous student and I loved what he said. He's like, I had a specific room that I only did my schoolwork in, and like that's where I went for school, and my wife knew I was going to do my work and then I left. So it's funny how everybody kind of figures out exactly what works best for them. And then since we are such a smaller group, Jessica, Esmina, and or Laura, if you guys want to share with us maybe what program of interest you guys are looking at that could be helpful for us as well, kind of just to re-engage the conversation maybe that way, and we can talk more program specifics that might be helpful for you guys as you guys are kind of on your search looking for programs and researching different schools and seeing what's going to work best for you. Just as a reminder, you guys do have the option to unmute, ask anything that you like. This really is a time for you guys to dig deeper with us, get those, other questions answered.
Hi, my name is Jessica and I am new to Kansas. I just moved from Colorado and I am looking to do the master's in administration. I don't think that I'm reaching a point in my career where I want to maybe impact change at a larger scale than just within my classroom. So that's what I am looking for.
Very nice. And you said you're looking at the master's in ed admin, correct? Okay, perfect. And where are you kind of at with your search with the program?
Yeah, I'm just I'm not far. I don't know. I would like to start soon. This is my 10th year of teaching, so I'm quickly approaching the point where I'm going to get frozen if I don't get a master's. So that's sort of the press, and so I'm just sort of courting, and then I will apply.
Awesome. Yeah, we're happy to have you here. Let's see what other questions I have ready for everybody. Let's see.
Maybe while you're looking for your questions, Cassie, just to piggyback on what Melanie said about the schedule and balancing everything, which you did such a beautiful job of. I think it's really important just to maintain in your mind that we know your lives are busy, right? We know that many folks are teaching during a pandemic with changes from online to face-to-face, back to face-to-face, and back to online. And life happens while you're in a graduate school program. And so just keeping in mind that, communicate with your instructors. Your instructors are people too, and they understand that life happens. So it does get busy. I can see sometimes during the semester when students are overwhelmed, I'm overwhelmed, we're all in it together and we just kind of communicate what's going on. So I would say that's probably true for any graduate program.
Yeah, I would say something else too is I always hear students like feeling not ready to start a program or unsure or uneasy. So I always try to say, KU faculty is so involved in our programs. They want you to succeed. They're willing to help you. Although it's online, they still are of access to you. You're a full student of the University of Kansas. Everyone wants you to be successful in the program. So I always get students who always want to put it off. So I want to put this to you, Melanie. Do you wish you ever would have started the program sooner? Because I always get students who are like, maybe next year, I'm not ready yet. So maybe you could speak to that just a little bit.
Sorry, I'm clicking buttons here. Yeah, I actually, when I started my program, I had taught 2 years in kindergarten, and then I had just finished my second year in third grade. So it was my 5th year in, and the same, like Jessica said, I'm in Pennsylvania, and I was a little pressed because it's by whenever the clock is, you have to have so many credits by a certain time. And so I kind of waited And I was really glad that I waited until I had like those 5 and 6 years under my belt. I didn't feel ready. And every time that a new class came on, I was, I anticipated, oh my goodness, it's just a whole new change. But like Lana said, everyone knows. And so everything all worked out. Everything was very smooth. And there were, you have the downtimes in it, but I have a colleague, for example, that she just finished her program, and hers was straight through 1 year. And something that I really liked was I worked with a different admissions person, and he was really understanding of the way that my reimbursement was coming through with my employer. And so he was able to really organize my schedule with me, and very understanding of how that all worked. But I was really glad that I started it when I did, and I wouldn't change it.
That's good to hear. All
Since
right.
Jessica's interested in the EdAdmin program, maybe Dr. Beslow could talk about some of the highlights of the program. I know that in the master's, I think it's the master's program. It's not in my area, so I'm guessing Jayhawkville is really unique, and I believe that's used in the master's program. I know we use it in some of our courses, and that's a feature that I don't know that any other online program has. So maybe you could talk about it.
Yeah,
Give
I'd
Jessica
love
some, give Jessica.
Yeah, I'd love to. So Jayhawkville is basically a simulation. There's 30 different schools that make up essentially kind of a pretend district. The data, though, is actually very realistic to data that you would see in the school setting. And so a lot of our assignments, no matter if it's maybe a data class or a leadership class, will ask you to kind of take a deep dive into the simulation of schools. And you'll see elementary, middle, and high schools. You'll get data sets. You'll get inside scoops on what's going on in the school, just like you would see in any school that you work in. You get a sense of what kind of leadership styles people have, what a principal's maybe struggling with or not struggling with. And so part of the assignments will be to kind of dig in. Sometimes you get to choose what school. Sometimes you'll actually be assigned the school, and you'll do assignments based on that deeper dive of a subset of information. So it gives you like the closest to real experience you could actually get in trying to tease out these issues as a school leader. What would you do if your enrollment's declining, or what would you do if your staffing is not really matching the demographic of students that you're serving? Or so everything from cultural issues to actual student performance issues, it gives you something really real to tease out. So it's kind of a crown jewel, I think, of our program. So Dr. Wright, I'm glad that you mentioned that. It's something our students have found really realistic and helpful, I think, to work with and try to put a realistic spin on things. So, yeah.
Well, I know that our students, that we have, I think, 2 classes in our program that use Jayhawkville, and it's always fun because it gives you a way to learn skills around a school and a data set and demographics of the school, and sort of build these skills. Then you can turn around and apply it to your own school, or your own data in your school or your district, or looking at the demographics of your school. So it's just a way to build skills, and then you can apply them in your own setting. And I think that's something that's really unique about the program at KU. I don't know of many others that actually offer that sort of connection. So I think that's one thing that sets us aside from some of the others.
Yeah, thank you. Visually too, it's a very cool kind of graphic where you feel like a little bit of SimCity, right? So you get to kind of click on things, and there's a topical graph and map. And so it's kind of like you get this bird's eye view of a school district. So that is a pretty cool, like, what would you do for scenarios? Lots and lots of opportunities there. And it's growing. So we continue to build. It's not necessarily aging out. So we continue to kind of build and try to make it multidimensional every year.
Yeah, definitely. I will say Jayhawkville is something that is so enticing to potential future students. I always bring that up to them and show them the video that we have on it. And Jessica, if you have not seen the short Jayhawk video that we do have, I can definitely send that to you in an email after, because it is something that definitely does make KU's online ALPS programs much different than others. And then I guess I can throw it out. We got a question in the chat. So we got a question from Asmina. So this is going to be for curriculum and instruction. So getting an elementary education license after completing an MSE in curriculum and instruction. Stephen, do you want to take it, or I could take it? Either way.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'm sorry, but no is the answer. Our master's program do not lead to initial licensure. We've sort of been kind of hesitant to try to go into that field because licensure is different in every state in the US. They have different requirements, and it's kind of a logistics nightmare. So we have not built out a licensure program at the graduate level yet. So sorry.
I would also say that, Asmina, I don't know what your area of interest is, but we have in TESOL students who begin to take their TESOL program, which is in the curriculum and instruction program, and they just become interested in education. Maybe they're teaching, for example, in China, and they don't need that elementary education license. But after taking the TESOL program, they begin to want to explore that even more, and therefore they go and take additional classes to become licensed. So while it doesn't lead to licensure, it might pique someone's interest to pursue it afterwards, and that's happened quite a few times. I've had reports of that.
Yeah, and I think just speaking to that, it depends upon, if your long-term goal is to be an elementary education teacher, recommend starting there. But like Lana said, if you're looking to get into the education field, you're by no means is a license required for any of our programs. So you could always take the master's, but just keep in mind it doesn't lead or help you getting that initial. So it's really just figuring out exactly what's most important to you for getting what you're going to get out of a master's program right now. And then I can throw back to anybody who wants to answer this. We kind of already went over it with the ALPS program, but maybe for CNI, like what would you think is something else that kind of sets KU apart from other schools with CNI programs as well?
Lana, why don't you talk about the TESOL and general program?
Okay, so you kind of already hit on it, but I would say the application piece really in TESOL is what makes our program stand out a little bit. We have courses in assessment and methods and a practicum. And in so many of these courses, we ask that students actually interact with their students or with the English language learners that they come in contact with. So we try to make a bridge between the theoretical, all these ideas and concepts that you learn in the classroom, and the practical, like what does it mean for my classroom the next day? And so I think students have really appreciated us helping to make that bridge and building that bridge together. In fact, there's an assignment called the Bridge Project in TESOL where they do exactly that. Like, how does all of this information that you're learning apply to what you do? And we really try to hit on that in several ways through the courses, and then also the capstone course, which is a digital portfolio. Students have the opportunity to talk about these learning outcomes and to really connect what they've learned in the KU classroom to their context, their educational context, whatever that educational context might be. So for example, we have, teachers teaching English, but we also have, fifth grade teachers and science teachers, and we've had a grief counselor. And so just any number of folks who are coming in and looking to the program can find meaning and application in the program.
We also have a focus area on reading, and it is very practical because there are 2 practicums. So we look at working with primary children. So we consider that sort of pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, grades 1 and 2. Looking at their reading abilities, how do you teach them reading? If you see that there are issues, what are some assessments to use to diagnose where they need help? And then we also have a course with the practicum that looks at sort of upper elementary through middle school, high school, and working with adults who have reading difficulties. Our reading courses are updated and now are including information about dyslexia. And how can you work with students or adults who have been identified as being dyslexic? Again, the instructors created the courses and they're very hands-on and applicable to doing, anything related to reading. You can learn stuff 1 week in class and take it in the next day and use it in your own classroom.
Laura, do you maybe have any questions or any of interest for any of our guests tonight? Or Azmina or Jessica, anything else that's come up? I really want to make sure you guys have the opportunity to ask anything if anything's top of mind to you guys right now. I know you guys are still researching programs, kind of going back and forth, but really is for you guys to ask those specific questions.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So Jayhawkville, that's basically, it's like a simulated school district. It's not like an actual real one. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
So do you do any like internships or that with real schools, or is it just with the virtual school district?
That's a great question. At the end of the program, you'll do a field experience opportunity, which is essentially a time to connect in that building leadership in a live format, and you'll get a mentor that's pre-approved, and then you will have, it's not super restrictive in that you don't have to get so many hours in exact categories, but we'll give you the forms and we walk you through. It's actually one of the courses you'll take. It's the 895 course, and essentially it'll walk you through a opportunity to apply what you've learned with a mentor and university supervisor to kind of walk you through. The cool thing about that too is you'll be able to be in a cohort team that you can also discuss your experiences with others that are doing the same thing. We do try to gear you a little bit, although we really encourage an elementary, middle, and high school experience at the at our program. We will also try to gear you towards the area that you're most interested in terms of leadership. And that can be at the school that you are at. We've also had private school educators, and we work with those formats too. We don't make you do a public school. We've even done virtual school. So we try to stay pretty progressive and flexible with what that experience looks like.
Oh, and that's great because I'm actually more interested in like private school leadership. So that's good to know. Thank you.
Great. No, I'm glad you did. We are seeing more and more private school educators come through the program. And so we will definitely kind of embrace and tailor those requirements to your situation and then work with whomever that might be that would be in a supervisory capacity. So sometimes it takes a few extra emails with the instructor just to make sure it's actually applicable, but we will absolutely work with you and you wouldn't be alone.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.